All right, welcome. Good afternoon, everyone. So, first of the plenaries at MODSIM2023. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Sondoss Elsawah. Sorry, Associate Professor Sondoss now. Sondoss's bio is on the program in the app. I'm not going to read through that for you, but I will say, for about a decade, Sondoss, in both the Australian Society of Operations Research and MSANS, has been a very prominent figure. So not only based on her research, but very selfless with her time at the research community side of things. Now, Sondoss first came to my attention is ASOR Rising Star recipient, and I think in about 2016. So that was for very early career researchers showing great promise. We made a good selection then, and that's clearly the proof. It's still here in 2023. So without any further ado, I'll hand you to Sondoss for the plenary talk today.
Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here. Good afternoon, everyone. I have been attending MODSIM since 2011, and I was always looking forward to plenaries with great anticipation. As I stand here today to deliver a plenary among my colleagues, long-standing collaborators, dear friends, and community members, I am filled with a sense of humbleness and privilege. Thank you, the conference organizers, for making this happen. When I reflect on the most unifying feature among the MODSIM community, two key features stand out. The first and the most unifying feature of our community is that we are all grappling with societal issues, which we recognize as complex and persistent problems. We are all passionate to use our modeling knowledge and disciplines to support decision-making in context of complexity and uncertainty. Whether you are interested in water resource planning, the health of ecosystems, the health of communities and well-being, national security, defense planning, you name it. We all recognize and agree that we are dealing with sheer complexity manifested in the scale of interdependencies among drivers and systems, very elusive system boundaries, and plurality of views of those impacting and being impacted by the problems we are dealing with. The second uniting feature of the MODSIM community is that we all value cross-disciplinary and multi-domain knowledge sharing as essential enablers to handle this type of complex problems. This is what motivates us every 2 years to pack our bags and come to MODSIM to share together our problems and solutions. Using these two uniting features as vantage point for my plenary today, I would like to use the next 30 minutes to reflect loudly with you on one question. How can we effectively enable and accelerate the use and impact of model-based decision support in complex problem situations? The word accelerate is crucial because the rapid pace at which socioeconomic, political, and technological drivers are evolving. To cope with this tempo and the resulting challenges and opportunities, we must be able to accelerate our fundamental abilities of anticipation, deterrence, and resilience, which can be significantly improved by model-based decision support. To address this question, I will offer a holistic roadmap concept which weaves together 4 threads. 1, knowledge integration, covering the what question, what knowledge is needed to support decision-making. 2, effective implementation, the how question, covering how can decision support be delivered. 3, digital transformation, the context at which we will build and deliver models. 4, education and capacity building, covering the talent required to build and use models effectively. Over the next few minutes, I will pull each thread and identify few lines of efforts required to advance the development in these areas. On pulling these threads together, I will draw on my own experience as an integrative lens, informed by the multiple roles I have taken in decision support, including A, being an applied researcher whose research has always been at the boundary of disciplines, working on a very real-world decision support problems. B, being a STEM educator, especially in model-based learning. C, the several research and education management and leadership roles I have taken, including leading a boundary organization at the interface of science, policy, and industry. My intent is to use this plenary to provoke conversations during and hopefully after the conference about what we could do as researchers, educators, and leaders in the decision support space. I will ask questions back to you to get us to think together and use the conference opportunity to reflect as a community about what we could do, especially what professional societies such as IMS, ASUR, and MScience and the MODSIM community can do to accelerate impact. To keep the conversations going interactively, please use the Miro board, link in the plenary abstract to add ideas, use stickers to collect your thoughts during the conference. Now sit back and enjoy. Thread number 1, knowledge integration. Complex problems defy disciplinary and field boundaries. Our ability to deal with complex problems need model-based decision support that can integrate knowledge from various fields, including operations research, decision science, systems engineering, ability to integrate stakeholder groups through collaborative process, and the ability to integrate various forms of data and research methods into coherent frameworks. One key advancement area for advancing knowledge integration is the need for synthesis research. So what do I mean by synthesis research? And why do we need it? According to the Handbook of Research Synthesis and Meta-Analysis, synthesis research is defined as an empirical research for the purpose of creating generalizations. Implicit in this definition is the notion that seeking generalizations also involves seeking limitations. Research synthesis almost always pay attention to relevant theories, critically analyze the research they cover, try to resolve conflicts in literature, and attempt to identify central issues for future research. Why do we need it? To accelerate our impact, we need to use models to establish a broader and generalized understanding of complex systems, with focus on identifying patterns and formulating fundamental principles behind socio-environmental technological interactions. We need to go beyond focusing on case studies, investigating specific management problems for a particular place and particular time. This will require the ability to integrate different types of knowledge with contextual and place-based data, with the aim to compare and contrast different systems across various hydroclimatic, socioeconomic, and other conditions. Over the years, I have focused much of my research program on knowledge synthesis, with a particular focus on the area of systems modeling. In Elsawah et al., 2020, my co-author and I synthesized knowledge from both the scenario and the modeling domains to articulate a future roadmap for the use of scenarios in socio-environmental systems modeling. Another synthesis research is reported in Elsawah et al., the Grand Challenges paper, where we crafted the concept of the grand challenges to consolidate the 8 core thrust areas for research in socio-environmental systems modeling. The impact of the synthesis research is reflected when the National Academies of Science, Engineering and Medicine report on the next generation Earth system science at the National Science Foundation, put the grand challenges at the heart of painting a compelling vision for using systems approaches to tackle complex problems, and calls for funding to target these 8 challenges. From my experience, doing synthesis research is necessary but not sufficient to accelerate impact. If we would like to accelerate impact, we need to drive from a place of making impact. And I see here 2 pathways for this. First, what I call the let it happen approach, where we publish our synthesis research in journals and traditional dissemination forums. This is not enough. The second is the making happen approach. And I mean by this purposeful and proactive design and use of funding and community collaborative mechanisms to drive this impact. If we want to accelerate the impact of our models, we need to drive from the intention of how to make it happen. From my experience, make it happen requires researchers to be agents for change, proactively driving research and capacity building and knowledge integration. An example of making happen approach is when my colleagues and I took the concept of the grand challenges from the paper and created a community-driven initiative, bringing together the National Socio-Environmental Synthesis Center, SISYNC, the Integrated Assessment Society, TIAS, and Socio-Environmental Systems Modeling Journal, SESMO. We used the concept to drive a multitude of community activities, such as webinars, roundtable discussions, educational material, special issues, conference workshops, and sessions, all targeted towards advancement in tackling these 8 grand challenges. I would like to invite you to tap to these resources. I would like to invite you to be part of this initiative. And if you like, you can join us for a session and a workshop during IMS 2024 in Michigan next year. The second advancement area for knowledge integration is we need theoretical frameworks supported by case studies that explicitly integrate disciplines, methodologies, methods in a conceptually clear way. In Zar et al. 2017, we decided to do an interesting exercise. We wanted to understand how studies apply integration, and we used integrated water assessment and modeling as a scope for this exercise. We used bibliometric analysis to dissect literature and give us a deep appreciation of how the concept of integration had been used. You want the good news or the bad news? Let me start with the good news. What we found is increasing trend in papers using integration-related keywords. But when we delved deeper, we found that although they claim integration, only a small set had a socioeconomic component, as per the integrated assessment principles of integrating dimensions of biophysical and socio-environmental systems. The conclusion from this is that although we use the term, it's actually not reflected in the study and it's not consistent with the theoretical basis. Like communication in Bernard Shaw's popular quote, the single biggest problem in integration is the illusion that it has taken place. As an editor and reviewer for several journals and grant schemes, I have been observing an increasingly alarming trend in papers and even whole PhD theses claiming novelty and innovation in integration without any theoretical basis of what it means, how it is done, and towards what purpose. This is another area that my research team has focused on, and I believe we desperately need more sustained efforts in this direction. For example, Ivanova 2023 drew upon critical systems thinking to offer a methodological framework to guide selection of methods from systems thinking, future studies, and systems engineering into coherent problem-solving approach. The three areas have different stances about the fundamental questions of what is a system, what is knowledge, and what are the devices to use to generate and validate knowledge. Again, offering a methodological framework, period, is one step. To make it happen, we need to use case studies to demonstrate the end-to-end application of the methodology in practice, including the use of evaluation frameworks that capture learnings and inform refinement. The accumulation of these studies over time will allow for consolidated and streamlined growth of knowledge that can be further mined and synthesized to drive the growth cycle of advancing theory and practice on a solid basis. Now, my question back for you, what else is needed to support knowledge integration? What role do professional societies and MODSIM can play in enabling these outcomes? The second thread is effective implementation. Implementation is about the how we could bring projects, people, processes, and practices together to deliver outcome. One area of advancement that we need effort in is identifying and formalizing effective model-based decision support practices. As we all know, every project takes a different pathway, with modelers choosing tools and processes to support technical model development and stakeholder engagement while continuously juggling constraints informed by the context. The need for methodological versatility means that many aspects of the modeling process remain a craft, mastered through years of experience through a wide range of projects in different contexts. Modelers use this accumulated wealth of knowledge regarding the practice of modeling, the reality of how they go about the modeling business. Many of this knowledge is tacit, implicit, reside in people's minds and experience. If we would like to accelerate impact, then we need to find a way to capture and formalize and share this knowledge and experience. One promising approach is modeling patterns. It captures the problems and the frequently proven to work solutions to solve these problems. Ali et al. 2023 defined a modeling pattern language for building composable models. Each of the patterns has a particular anatomy, in a form which allow for knowledge elicitation and knowledge sharing. So for example, a pattern has a name, a pattern has a clear description and workflow, it has a clear description of a context where it could be applied, as well as relationships to other patterns in the language. Like any language, it remains a work in process. I really encourage you to try some of these patterns, validate them, as well as add your own. To promote more research and raise more awareness around identifying and formalizing modeling practices, 3 journals, Ecological Modeling, Environmental Modeling and Software, and SISMO, have joined forces for a special issue around the topic. I encourage you to reflect on your own modeling practices, try to elicit them, and consider a submission for this special issue. The second area for advancing effective implementation is agile model development. Truly are gone the days when we can take months and months before building a model that can inform decision-making. Our project sponsors and end users expect decision support as rapidly as possible. We need to be able to build, update, and rebuild at a pace so we can drive conversations rather than lag behind. Agile model development needs an architecture-driven modeling approach, where models are designed with the purpose of dealing with the class of modeling of problems, leveraging the software engineering principles of modularity, adaptability, and reusability. This is a multidisciplinary area where software engineering, systems engineering, modeling, and simulation intersect. In Elsawah et al., 2023, we presented an architecture and reusable modeling library for asset planning problems. The architecture is built by a multidisciplinary team, and it is built on multiple projects conducted by the team supporting the Australian government in major defense asset modernization efforts. What we learned from this research experience is that while the cost of building architectures and libraries can be high at the start, this approach pays dividends in speeding up the modeling process, transferring knowledge across projects, as well as improving conversations and decision support quality. The benefits of architecture-driven modeling approaches are eloquently captured in Dan Emme's plenary title for tomorrow, Forecasting Flow in Every River, Everywhere, and All at Once. I encourage you to join us for Dan's plenary. Now, my questions back for you. What else do we need to do to enable effective implementation? What roles professional societies can do to accelerate impact? The third thread I would like to pull is the digital transformation. This is the context. We are building, using, learning, and teaching models in increasingly digital context. I see two emerging developments that have the potential to reshape the landscape of how models are built and used. First is the human-machine teaming from the field of AI. Second is the digital engineering from the systems engineering discipline. Human-machine teaming transforms the view and use of AI from a tool to a trusted and autonomous teammate. Human-machine teaming opens a lot of opportunities for supporting model development by leveraging the complementary strengths of humans and AI. As characterized in Abbas et al. 2020 article published in the Philosophical Transactions of the Royal Society, there are different autonomy levels covering, in general, human in the loop, human on the loop, and human out of the loop. But before being super excited about AI being the solution to all our modeling problems, we need research which informs our understanding of what this development means for the modeling discipline. Questions such as, how do autonomy levels apply to model development in decision support? What does it mean to build models at each level? At what cost? For what benefit? What's the risk? What are the ethical implications of building models at each level of autonomy? I am really looking forward to Wednesday's plenary with Simon Barry on modeling and the rise of machine learning, where Simon will shed light on the challenges and the opportunities for human-machine teaming and what it means for modeling. Please join us then. The second emerging area is digital engineering from the systems engineering discipline. Digital engineering is defined as a collaborative way of working using digital processes to enable more productive methods of planning, designing, constructing, operating, and maintaining assets. While the systems engineering discipline is still dominated with the view that digital engineering is technological development, Serburn et al. 2023 painted a vision for digital engineering as a systemic intervention, which entail fundamental shifts in culture, practices, and technologies to achieve enterprise-level digital transformation. In this vision, models and model-based systems engineering play a key role in driving learning and informed decision support. The digital engineering perspective brings a number of implications into how we build and use models. The first implication is that models will be increasingly viewed as digital assets, with all related life cycle management issues from cradle to grave and everything in between. Central to this view is model curation. Model curation is the life cycle management, control, preservation, and active enhancement of models and associated information to ensure value for current and future use. As evident by curation practices in institutional collections such as museums, historical societies, we need dedicated leadership and support roles to carry out curation processes. How does this governance framework look for models? An important implication for viewing models as digital assets is the need also to characterize and assess the maturity of models using standard and emerging frameworks, such as technology readiness levels. In a digital transformation context, funders, clients, and end users will increasingly expect us to articulate and evaluate our modeling maturity. While technological development has already started, the more interdisciplinary and theme-cutting questions around the future use of models in digital contexts remain limited and siloed within application and scientific disciplines. To address these questions and more, I'd like to take the opportunity to invite you to join us on the 17th of November for the inaugural Digital Engineering Summit at University of New South Wales, Canberra. The summit will bring together leaders from industry, government, and academia to debate ideas around the use of models in a digital transformation context. Please join us. My reflection points back to you. What else do we need to do to enable and accelerate the use of models in a digital transformation context? And what role do societies have to contribute? The last thread to pull is education and capacity building, and this is where I wear my teacher hat. I see two areas to advance an education and capacity building. First, there is a clear lack of pedagogical culture in the model-based decision support community across all fields and application domains. This gap manifests in the lack of debate, investigations, evaluations concerning how these methods are taught. In the absence of research-based insights, teachers are left for their own devices, relying on their own network of peers, scattered research, literature, and much of trial and error approach to teaching. This doesn't provide accelerating impact. This also could be explained by the deeper academic culture which favors research on education. In this informs paper, my co-authors and I synthesized the literature on teaching systems thinking and modeling. You want the bad news or the good news? Let me start with the bad this time. What we found is clear knowledge gap in research documenting course design, content, and evaluation of learning outcomes. The good news is that we offered a conceptual template that links the education theory to model-based learning courses as a step to help bridge the gap between the modeling and the education disciplines, and to provide teachers with a practical support to help in publishing their course design and delivery. Please use the template. This year, MODSIM 2023 program, for the first time, we feature our first education-focused session. I encourage you to take the time to drop by this session on Wednesday. If you missed this year's session, join us for a second episode in IMS 2024. The second area for education and capacity building is we need to develop competency frameworks that enable us to recognize, define, and formalize competencies related to model-based decision support and what it means to operate in a digital context. In Elsawah et al. 2023, my co-authors and I distilled a core set of competencies for participatory model-based decision support. However, we all know that there is more than research that is needed to lift the barriers around accelerating capacity building. Career pathways remain a barrier for interdisciplinary approaches, including model-based decision support. First, it's a barrier for researchers to start and maintain a research career. Research institutions in general, and academia in particular, favor giraffes who have solid standing in a single career discipline than elephants who spread their expertise across disciplines. While we celebrate applied researchers once they establish a track record of applied and integrative work and achieve a particular status, junior researchers still straddle domains until they become established applied researchers. Through this journey, we are losing much needed talent for comfort zone of safe disciplinary silos and identity crisis. I personally remember the string of identity crises that I went through as I crossed disciplines and domains. One of the most helpful things that sustained me through this is the wise advice from one of my mentors, who kept reminding me that the most common thread across these experiences, Sondoss, is you, and this is the strength. Second, solving complex problems is a team sport, and it requires highly developed skills of research transformation. Researchers often talk about research translation, but from my experience, effective implementation needs more than translation. It needs transformation of knowledge. It needs the ability to understand the institutional practicality of the insights derived from the models, the political and the organizational change processes, and where models sit within this context. This is why we need crocodiles, those amphibians who can navigate different domains seamlessly. In my team at the Capability Systems Center, we recognize the expertise of the crocodiles. As a boundary organization sitting at the interface between academia, policy, and industry, highly specialized domain experts work with academics throughout the whole project life cycle, from proposal writing to dissemination. However, our institutions and performance management frameworks are not built to recognize this diversity of expertise, a new modality of doing applied research. Crocodiles are often looked at as external consultants rather than genuine team members, and are deprived from career pathways and leadership opportunities. While our home institutions take time to change, professional societies driven by energetic members and unconstrained by institutional barriers and bureaucracy have a role to play in nurturing and recognizing talent, setting mentorship programs, recognizing the wider expertise and skill sets, and rewarding teams, not only individuals. My reflection points back to what else do we need to do to accelerate capacity building and education? And what role do societies have to play in enabling these future outcomes? Now, I would like to take you back where I started. How can we enable and accelerate the use of impact of model-based decision support in complex problems? What do we need to do as researchers, practitioners, educations, and leaders and professional societies? There is never a better place for these stimulating discussions than MODSIM, so I hope you take the time to reflect on this for the next few days. Again, join the conversation using the Miro board. Use the link in the abstract, and I will share the outcomes after the conference via the MSense digest. For now, I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference and take care. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much, Sondoss. We do have time for questions from the audience. Which to get it. Here we go. Good. I didn't need to put a Dorothy Dixer in there. We got a real one straight away.
Thanks, Sondoss. That is very interesting. Should we be training more crocodiles in our universities in that case? But I guess our the university system is still largely focusing on disciplinary expertise, and that probably makes crocodiles a minority. And the point you raised, I mean, crossing across the borders, and they're always seen as kind of pests, or sometimes who eat into the disciplinary budgets when it comes to multidisciplinary or transdisciplinary projects. So do you see that kind of change happening in the university system? Are we having more multidisciplinary programs or schools being institutionalized in our university system?
Absolutely, I totally agree. We need training. We need to train crocodiles, and I see that definitely universities are coming around. For the last few years, they started to recognize that we need more diverse skills, but especially around the lifelong learning, they recognize this as an opportunity to build this type of expertise. But again, you need the practice of working on projects. So we need more than just the traditional education forms of courses. We need internship. We need to think of another ways of upskilling, especially if we'd like to accelerate impact.
There's a question at the back.
That works. Thank you very much, Sondoss, for a brilliant talk. On the same vein, I have a question for you now in terms of what do we need to do, and coming back or inspired from your questions, do we need to define what is novel in a different way? Because if you think about PhD students, if you think about papers, we're always asking about the novelty. But there is novelty in integration, as you brilliantly pointed out. But where do we really start with defining this novelty in a way that makes those kind of integration aspects much more viable and pliable for applying for funding, getting papers out, and getting them through quite often still disciplinarily informed review boards and other aspects? Thank you.
Yes, Stefan, absolutely. We need to do this, but also I think equally important, we need to connect to the fundamentals of science. I keep getting surprised that many of the PhD programs now don't have enough training in things like the philosophy of science, ontology, epistemology. Words like this are now, we don't talk about this anymore. While this is the fundamentals of getting the PhD students to understand why I'm doing this, what are these frameworks. So I think, yes, while we are doing what you are suggesting, I think we also need more in-depth training before we, especially in the multidisciplinary space.
Hi, Sondoss. Thinking more about the difficulty for the crocodiles. Sometimes people in those interdisciplinary, integrative roles end up playing more of a support role and being middle authors on a bunch of paper rather than leading and being seen as the leaders in their projects. Do we need to be thinking about how to mentor young researchers who are filling those roles into becoming and being recognised as leaders, and leading papers about that integration aspect and so forth? And if so, what's the way forward on that?
Yes, I think we need to allow for more easy transition back and forth between academia and industry to allow for this type of experience to happen. At the moment, it seems this transition is not happening. People is either sitting there or on the other side. So I think that's one aspect, because this is what provides the training, Barbara, and then people come back with the experience, and then they could take more leadership role on the research. So, and we need to start thinking of more of, again, the internship or being more embedded, projects being developed with the idea of how we could embed people in different organizations. Some organizations do this quite well, better than others, but I think we need to formalize an approach around how this looks like and share experience, because even the organizations that do it very well, there is no way of sharing what worked, what didn't work, and how could we, what is the best practice in this? So I think that's another area. Yes, Tom.
Hi, thank you. I just reflecting on your suggestion that we need to increase the speed of doing modelling, but then at the same time, how do we also integrate co-production with that, which can often take longer? It seems to me quite a tension there.
So would you mind repeating the question?
How do we reconcile the idea of needing to increase the speed of doing modelling while also doing co-production in our modelling processes, which is often something that takes longer?
Yes. So I think part of, if I understand the question, is introducing the idea of models for people while you have to accelerate building these models. I think there is a reinforcing effect. If you have the ability to show people quickly, at least the proof of concept of what the model is, what it could deliver for you, this will actually help in the business case of presenting the model and opening ideas of how it could be used and get people excited. So I think speeding up the process will actually help in building this business case. Have I answered your question?
Thanks, Sondoss. I think what you've presented is resounding with me very strongly, especially in a number of areas. The digital transformation, the ability to have tools that can help integration rather than hinder it, I think is really critical. I'm just wondering, though, I think one of the areas that I see as quite challenging is educating people in the value of integration, and then being able, as technophiles, to be able to communicate the value of integration, especially in socioeconomic elements, because I think that's a challenge. We're good at the technology, and we probably are very good at understanding and defining problems, but when it comes to communicating that and the value of the integration, I think that's where sometimes we have a challenge.
Exactly. And that's why I think we need to tap to other ways of communication. And this was clear from yesterday's plenary. Things like storytelling, how you could touch the minds and hearts of people, not only rely on the numbers and the fascinating graphs to demonstrate idea, but how could you blend this with storytelling and build a narrative around this so you can actually excite people and convince them of what you're trying to communicate.
Almost at time, but here's another one.
Thank you so much, Sondoss. That was wonderful. Just a question, just to be controversial about, I completely around the education just resonated with me very strongly. What's the role of universities in all of this? I mean, it sounds like they're more of a hindrance than anything else. When you talk about the
Yes.
giraffes, the administration, the fact, and so I guess, because my experience is there's a very strong demand in industry and government for that skill set, and there's a lot more funding available than you get through the traditional university streams that we all somehow put up on a pedestal, even though, anyway. So just, what do you think the role of universities is in all of this? Is there a future? How much do we need to transform in the university sector? Just a simple question.
It's not a simple question, okay? Yeah, I think definitely the answer is yes. Whether we will do it soon as a university, I'm not sure about the pace by which we are moving in. But again, back to the learning opportunity, I'm seeing that at least universities see this as an economic opportunity for them. And if you use the lifelong learning, it's all about professional development, skills on hands on the deck type skills. So I think the market will drive the universities in this direction, I like to think. But we can talk more about this, Olga.
Your future as an academic relies on your answer being suitably diplomatic, Sondoss. just before we finish up, I have a question for you, which is, in this integration space, we used to be modelers and sparse data. Can modeling compete with massive data in this space of integration and also engaging socioeconomically with other parties? Can modeling compete, or is data easier?
I would argue against the premises of the question that there is a competition, while actually it's integration. Oh, sorry. So the question has the word competing. Can models compete with big data in solving these complex problems? And what I was saying to Simon, I disagree with the premises of the question as there is competition of methods and paradigms, while actually genuinely at the heart of integration is plurality of methods and how you could leverage big data techniques with modeling and simulation, like horses for courses type of thinking. So I think
it was a rubbish question. That's cool.
Have I answered?
You don't have to be diplomatic about that one.
Okay.
All right. So in recognition for your great efforts, we've composed. Now I say we. I don't know who composed it, but such a magical pack of bush and natural products. So thank you very much for your talk.
Thanks,
On behalf of Ms. Antonaso.